All right, step 2 in mapping your data to your website. So now you've already taken a look at the data sheet you're working with, right? You've looked for missing fields and you're ready to start the setup. So I'm going to take us there and show you how to find it. Now I'm doing this demo on our Streamline site, and even though it's Drupal, and this is primarily for our clients to help them out, it doesn't really matter the concept, no matter if you're doing a Drupal or an Xcart or Magento or any of the other shopping carts. Although some of the steps might be a little different, the concept is still the same. So I apologize, this is going to be on a Drupal backend. So you're on your site, you're logged into your admin account, and you'll know that because it's your back end, right? Drupal may look a little bit different than other sites, but anyway, so somewhere on your site, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this whole thing for Drupal. Under structure, you have feed importers. Now we're going to add an importer. Right now I'm just going to click here, and we have 0 importers so far. So I'm going to add an importer. Now I'm going to tell you that my preference, and I know some people go, I just want to add one massive importer. It sounds like it should be a good idea, and if you were only selling t-shirts or hats and they all had the same fields, okay, but you're not. You're selling aftermarket parts, and that means that every brand, every line may have different fields, right? Suspension brand is going to have some different fields than a bumper brand, and so personally I make one for every brand that's coming over. So let's I'm going to just write in sample brand load sheet, and that could be again Revolution Gear products, Warren products, right? You can put a little note to yourself, use this for brand A, right? On your websites, if you're one of our clients, you're going to see these importers, and again, I've already created them for you. So this is the first step in getting your products on your website. So with Drupal, and some of the other carts as well probably, but Drupal is really powerful, and so you can load an entire line on, but it does not load the part and the display at the same time, and that is for a specific reason, right? Again, when we talked about bundling, you may load an entire line on because it's easier and then decide you're not going to sell, right, the $2 parts you make no profit off of. Now you could have gone in and you could have cleaned that up off your data sheet to begin with, but maybe you didn't want to, you didn't have time. So you can load them on all at once, but then you still have to go through the step of creating the displays, and I will show you that in our final video. So I'm going to say create my importer for brand A, right? And that's whoever it is that we've decided to do. So this is the page you're going to get to. You're defaulted onto your editing page, and you have export, clone, delete, and tamper. The only 2 areas I work on, I never clone, I sometimes might delete, is the edit and the tamper. So first step, basic settings. Click the settings tab. It's going to tell you again the name, and all you have to do here is turn this off. It defaults to every 30 minutes because your importer wasn't just designed for parts, right? It's designed for all kinds of things to import. You could import a feed, so if you were doing weather updates or whatever, you can import a lot of stuff that you may want it to tap into it every 30 minutes. You do not want this to tap into your parts every 30 minutes, all right? So we're going to turn the periodic importer to off, and we're going to save this. Then we're going to go down to the fetcher, and it defaults to HTTP. Again, this is, hey, I'm loading something from a URL, but we're not doing that. So we're going to go up here and load from a local file and save, and you don't have to mess with the settings on this. Now we're going to go to parser, and what type of information are you, is it an XML? Again, not getting into this for the purposes of this video, but we are going to select CSV parser, all right, and save. So don't mess with your settings, because you can see what the settings are. You just changed them. Now we're going to go into the processor, and we are doing a commerce product. Now when we go to do the importer for the displays, it's already defaulted to node processor. And on Drupal, content pages are called nodes, right? So there's node 1 through node 5 million, whatever. So again, you can use your importer to import a lot of different stuff. But right now we are importing a commerce product. So we're going to save that. And then we're going to go to your settings on this. So the only settings and mappings that you're going to be dealing with, you have all these, those happen when you hit change. So let's go into your settings. And now it's going to ask us some questions. And this is really important, because different times and different things you're doing, you're going to want to come into your settings and change this. Because this is products only, and we already said that, there isn't much of a drop down here. We are selecting product, and we are saying insert new commerce products, or don't insert new commerce products. So if we are loading the parts for the first time, we're inserting new commerce products. If we were not loading for the first time, and we don't want new products, we're just dealing with existing products. So maybe maybe what we did is we didn't have video fields on something, or we were missing installation instructions when we first loaded, but now we have them. Then we might say don't insert new products, because we're just updating something. So for this purpose, we're going to say insert new products. And again, it's asking you, don't update existing commerce products, or replace existing commerce products, or update. So for the first time, we are not updating existing commerce products, right? Because we're loading it first all at once. And that replace existing or updating, this update is, hey, something has changed and I only want to update those changes. If you are saying replace existing commerce products, you're actually telling it take any information and get rid of what's on the site and replace it. This can be dangerous if you're working on an update sheet, and because what's on the sheet is going to replace it. So if you delete it and you have part numbers that it could wipe everything out. So anyway, I personally click the skip hash check and force an update that did not change. Even on this part, I just do it on the very first. It's what I do. You don't have to. There's little descriptions on everything, so if you forget, right, there's always descriptions. Please read this stuff. It tells you everything you need to know. And every time I have a client that calls and says, this didn't work, or this is what happened, it is because they did not pay attention to what they were doing. And it's really easy, again, to do, right? You start to do this and your phone rang. And so you come back and you go, oh, okay, I'm done. Well, you're not done, because you forgot where you were. That's again why I say move the phone out, shut your office door, get your cat off your desktop, and you know who I'm talking about. Don't let anyone disturb you during this time, all right? Text format, I do full HTML, right? And so again, those pretty displays that you see that have the bolds and the bullet points and all that stuff, if you don't want those, you just want a big block of words, then go ahead and do plain text, right? if you want those in there, though, especially with data off ASAP, I've already done that for you. So I've taken all that raw data, and I've looked at it, and I've spell checked it, and I've put the bullet points on it. So do full HTML. All right. Here, skip non-existent products, delete non-existent products. Just leave it to default to skip. Down here, it is product, so you didn't have another choice. Here, because Drupal especially is relationship based, right? It's roles and permissions. You may have somebody on your admin account that's only going in to check orders or something like that. You don't want to give them permission to do an import. So under permissions, which we'll do another video on that later, this is just in here to say, does this person have the ability to import this, right? And then under tax rate, tell you the truth, I've never used tax rate, so skip it. All right, so you save that. So now your settings have been saved. Now comes the fun part, mapping. All right, so it does not matter what the mapping field is on your data sheet, right? And what we're talking about for this column right here would be, let me pull this one up. This is this line right here, your headings, right? So you're going to go through one at a time. It does not matter what order they're in, right? So it does not have to be in a certain order, but it has to be exact. So if your part number is titled SKU, and it will be on ASAP data, but that doesn't mean that other data, they might call it part number or ID number or whatever. It doesn't matter what they could call it, cat, dog, or blue right now. So, but it has to match exactly. And you see this one is all in lowercase. So if you took this and started writing in and you did a capital S, guess what? The website says, I don't see that field, right? So I go up to this column and I copy this and I go back over here and I paste it. So I make sure there is no questions, right? No mistakes. If you had a space like this, but your data sheet doesn't, you're not importing that. It's going to have a problem and you'll get it and you'll go, where's all the part numbers? No spaces, right? So please take a minute to check, is your mouse butted up against this last word right here? So here's the cool thing. Now you select the target. Whatever, again, cat, if that's what it says on the data sheet, taco, I don't care what it says. You're telling your website now, what does that mean on the website? And so here are your choices, right? And this can get very long when you have a ton of different fields. If it's not a field here, that means it hasn't been created. And this one has been created because you see right down here, product SKU, right? And so we do this and we save. Now, sometimes, especially like a SKU, right, you're going to see a target configuration over here. And when you see these little gears and this little bubble, you can do it right now or you can wait until it's all done. But we're going to say it's got to be unique. And this is really important because if you don't say unique, then you could duplicate the crap out of your parts. It'll be a mess on your website. And we hit update. All right. It's saying here again, changes are not done until you've hit save. So I will tell you that usually when I'm doing this, I just add all these in and then I go over here and I make my changes all at once. So, so I'm going to add a couple fields here that I want to talk about tampering with so that, but I'm not going to add all of them, right? So let me back up for just a second and say sometimes we do sites for clients that they want on their website shop by truck, by ATV, by UTV, by day of the week. Guess what? Your website doesn't read your stuff and go, that looks like an ATV product. it has to have a field, and that part has to be put in that field. So if you don't see something here, it's not going to load in. You can always create. So if you want to create a, let me just go show you real quick. Product variations, product manage fields, right? So I'm going to open this in a new tab. Hang on, let me get that tab open. All right, so currently on this particular demo site, these are the only fields that are in that display. But let's say I did want to create a tab or a field so I could assign parts to something that are part type, and you can call this again whatever, and I'm going to do a select list, and I'm going to save this. And so if I wanted to segregate out my parts by again something strange, right, I would say, okay, I'm going to segregate out by truck parts, because even though you have fitment, the fitment doesn't say I'm a truck, right? This is not a word the website recognizes. And I can say Jeep part, and I can say ATV part, and I can say, well, I could also say universal for all that matters, right? And I know this is getting off track, so I'm sorry, but I wanted to show you, if you're looking to create a field, I'm just going to blow past this. You might have said numbers. All right, so anyway, so I created a field now. So now what I can do is, I'm going to have to let this refresh for a second. So hold on. So let's go get another one, and then I'm going to show you what I did. So let's go to something that I want you to, oh, here. We're going to need this one in particular. So I'm going to put price in, and again, it doesn't matter. It could say jobber, it could say tier 1, it could say whatever, but this is the price that's going to be showing up on my website for sale, right? So I want to find price, and so in your pricing, right, you're going to see commerce price amount, and on your website, if it's not Drupal, it might be something different, and you're going to see commerce price code. Be very careful, because that code in there, currency code, is defaulted to US currency. And so if you put this in here, you're not putting the price itself. You're telling the website, is it US, is it Canadian, is it French, right? So this is the one you want, commerce price amount, right? And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get my images. All right, let's get back over here. And images. So your website has the ability, again, anything that's in the field you can mass import. So you have the ability to do alt and title tabs, which is a really neat thing to do if you're doing SEO, and you can work on a data sheet and go back in and give those keywords to that. But these two are not what you want for your images. You want the image URI, and that is going to show the images up on your website. So let's add that. And then the last one for this demonstration purpose, I'm going to put in categories, so I can just show you. Whoops. All right. And let's see. All right, see that part type field in there? That's the one I just created. So as long as it's created, and as long as it's on your data sheet, right? Let me go ahead and put this categories in, and let's talk about that for a second. So field category, save that. So let's say that you did on your data sheet want to have something that said part type, right? I want to tell if it's Jeep or truck or ATV or, you know, pink ballerina shoes. I don't care what it says, but you want that be able to parse out and have people be able to click a button on your website that takes them straight to that. So you would take your whoops, sorry, let me save this real quick, and I'm going to create a new field, and I can call that part type. So what I would have to do if that wasn't there is I would have to tell it this is going to show up in truck and this is going to show up in Jeep. Now, depending on how your data sheet came over, you may be able to sort this into certain things that you already know. If it's by SKU, sometimes the manufacturers are really good with skewing their numbers, and you know, the 8.5s mean this and the 8.1s mean that. But otherwise, if you want that special field, guess what? You're going to have to do all that work to let it know where it's supposed to show up before you put it on the site. If you don't, it doesn't know, it doesn't go in, right? So, under categories and under brands, anything that's the taxonomy, a category is taxonomy means categories, right? It's the physical word they use for it, and it just means a group of words that are like fruit, and then under fruit could be apples and oranges and bananas, and then under apples it could be Granny Smith apples. So the word taxonomy is category, and again on Drupal it's a taxonomy. On other sites it may say category or some other kind of thing, but you see that we have a little bubble here. And what does that mean? So that means that it's saying, hey, do you want me to auto create the term if it doesn't exist? So here's the scary part, right? And I'm going to go ahead and say create the term. If you're mapping random data sheets, now on ASAP, again, I'm trying really hard to make a master and make sure that if someone called this a booby bumper, that it comes up under bumper when it comes to ASAP. So you don't have bumper and bumpers. And that is a big part of mapping your data, is making sure the terms that are on your website are not duplicated, kind of, right? And so you could say create the term if it doesn't exist. So it's going to go through your categories on where are my categories? It's going to go through your categories, and if this doesn't exist, you just told it to create it. Now, you kind of have to do that, because if you miss something and you load these parts, they're not going to be in a category, and that means you have to manually go back in and find the parts and put them in, and what a nightmare that will be, right? So another thing on Drupal is you can have multiple categories. So you could go primary category, pipe, secondary category, tertiary category. You can load all those in, but if they don't exist already on your website, and I don't think I've added any categories to this yet. Nope, I have no terms. So if I was creating a new category that wasn't on my website right now, I can create that all right here and bundle it up. If you don't bundle it up and you don't create it first in there's secondary and tertiary categories, it will not bundle them for you. It'll blow them all out into primaries. So I can put in bumpers. I'll go ahead and delete this in a minute, and I can say front bumpers, rear bumpers, winch bumpers, right? I can create all of that. What I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, bumpers is the primary, and because of the little dash, right, and it gives you all of the instructions right here. And an example, this is going to say I'm a child, I am a child of this. Now, what if you had winch bumpers and you wanted something else under that? 2 dashes, right? Under winch bumpers, I want good winch bumpers, and I want bad winch bumpers, right? It doesn't matter. So I'm going to add this up, and it shows, right? So I just created that taxonomy. But I didn't have to create that taxonomy for this. I could have just loaded it and told it to make it. But what it would have done is taken bumpers, front bumpers, and rear bumpers, and blown them into their own parent category. And so maybe you understand your parts and you're like, oh, okay, I can do that. I can go and move it and do what I want to do. And we'll talk about taxonomies in a later video and how we can take standalones and move them within. Wherever you see a plus, that means, hey, I have something underneath me, right? Just a little bit easier so you don't have to go in and do those steps multiple times. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and delete that in a minute after the video's over. All right, so I am updating this, telling it to create it just to be on the safe side. I am saving it because none of my saves are changes are permanent until I do. Now I want to go over to tamper. And again, with you, you may have 97 fields in here, right? You may have bumper location, or you may have bed size, or again, the pull capacity. But if it's not mapped here, it's not importing. I don't care what's on your data sheet. If you didn't do this, it's not importing to your website. So I'm going to go tamper. And tamper is really important. Some of this stuff doesn't need to be tampered. Some of this stuff does. So on Drupal, and I can't speak for any other sites, Drupal looks at your pricing as pennies. And so we need to add 2 plugins to the tamper on this. I mean, it takes a second. What we want to do is we want to first add a mathematical operation, right? I'm going to times the price, and if you're on Drupal and you ever type something in one of these fields, you just have to double click, which I haven't done yet. You have to double click and it will default down. It tries to remember things. So mathematical operation times 100, because it's going to take those prices in pennies and turn them into dollars. And so I'm going to add that, and then I'm going to go in and add one more just to be on the safe side, and that's going to be cast to integer. And I'm going to add that. That is every single time on your pricing field you need to do that, right? It's just take a minute. Again, otherwise your pricing, and that's really important on your website, could be really wonky. Now for images and categories and things that you have multiple things of, fitment, right? If you're loading fitment, you're going to have multiple, hey, it fits this year to that year and this year to that year, and you could have images and you could have multiple videos, and you can do this all at one time, but you need to add this plugin. And on this one, we're going to tell it to explode. All right, and what it's going to do is say explode how. So if your data is coming from ASAP, we explode by pipe, just always by pipe. So what I've done is I've hit the shift button on my keyboard, and right above the backspace there's a pipe, right? And that's what a pipe is. So we've separated our strings by pipe. You may have a data sheet from a non-ASAP brand that is separating that stuff by comma, right? So this is asking, how am I looking for this separation? You may say, hey, they've got 900 images on here. I only want to import the first top 5, because maybe if you're on one of those wonky, or not wonky, maybe if you're on a non-Drupal website, your plan per month, for example, says, oh, you can only have so many images, and so this might be something you need to do to limit the amount that goes in there. So I'm going to add this because I want to do multiple images when it comes over, and I'm going to add the same thing for the categories, because again, I may decide that or that may have multiple categories in it, right? Bumper, winch bumper, front bumper. And so I'm going to tell it, yeah, blow all the categories out and no limit to them. And I'm going to add them. All right. So never have to do anything. You won't have duplicate SKUs. Yeah, so pretty much price, images, categories. Maybe you have multiple YouTube videos. Anything you have multiples of that is on the data sheet, you want to explode that data. And pricing, you always want to add those two mathematical operations. So I can't think right now. If I do think of something later, I will we'll get back to it on a video. But those are the critical ones. All right, so I'm done with my tampering, and it's successful. So you can hit save just to be on the safe side one more time. My changes have been saved. Then I come back over here to edit, and now I'm going to go to the import page. I'm going to, and this could be very long, right? It could say worn product imports, or you know, Revolution gear product imports. So this could be very long, and I can have my descriptions over here, and you'll see that. And this is the one I want to import, and this pretty much is defaulted to it. So I can go in now and choose my file, right? So make sure you've made your changes to your CSV. Choose your file that you're going to import, and then click import. Once you're, I'm not going to, because this is actually a streamlined site, and so we're doing it quite a bit different. It's just pulling straight off ASAP, but whatever. When it's done importing, it's going to tell you the status, and it's going to say after it's done, hey, we just imported 441 products. And I always go back and check, right? So if you have, whoops, if you have 334 lines, that means you have 333 products, because the top line is a header line. So check it. And if it says you imported 318 of 334, didn't like something. Something it might not like very much are special symbols in your HTML, right? And that's something that we've pulled out on ASAP. But if again someone sent you data and it's got trademark symbols in it, or degree symbols in it, or quotes that aren't really quotes because they use CSV and they did, I mean, if you've got wonky stuff in your descriptions, it won't like it because it's talking HTML, and you may have to clean that stuff up. So so you will find out though when you go to import if it didn't happen. If that's the case, call me and we'll talk about troubleshooting to find out what that is. It's not a big deal when you first loaded a brand and you've not sold it before, because you can, you know, do a couple things. You can update the ones that didn't load, or you can just wipe it all out and start to clean it up. But if you already had those parts on there and then it starts to get wonky, it could be a real issue for you. I always recommend backing up your website before you do this, so that you don't go, I just made a complete and total mess of my website because of this data, and now what do I do? Because just like throwing salt into water, it's pretty easy to throw it all in. Pretty hard to now try and soak that out of the water. So taking your time on this to do it the right way the first time, really important. All right, so that is mapping and importing and the tampering. Really important steps. If you do the editing but you don't do the tampering, then you wind up not having all the images, or not having your pricing show up, and you call me and go, Amanda, it didn't work. I will tell you which step you missed, and then I'm going to you know, I'm going to teach you again, and you know how I am sometimes, so I am going to give you a little bit of crap over not taking the time to do this right the first time. All right, so the next video we're going to do is how to create the displays. It's a quick video, but here's where you're at. Again, any of our clients, always call me. Hope this helps, and we'll walk through trying to load non-ASAP data and what you're going to be faced with. All right, I hope this helps, and on to the next video.